In today's environment, data assumes significant importance, not just in the lives of individuals, but businesses as well. In Winning Ways, we speak to Sergey Beluzov, a Russian-born Singaporean businessman, investor, entrepreneur, and speaker, who is currently the CEO and chairman of Acronis, a global data protection and data integration company. Thanks, Sergey, for joining us on Winning Ways.
You're welcome.
With three companies in the area of technology and a couple of them in investments, how do you view your journey so far?
I don't know. I view it okay. It's not finished, I hope.
So when you started off, you probably had some goals in your mind when you started off as a 20-something, and today where you are, how do you chart your journey so far?
Well, I didn't have any specific goals. I was just young and I needed to do something, and I was just doing whatever was sort of on my way, and that's how I started my first company, which was when I was 20 years old. And then it just went on. I just started the second one after I split from the first one, and then I opened offices in Singapore, San Francisco, and I started a software company. And then I thought that selling somebody else's software, somebody else's hardware is not as much fun as making your own software. And so we started making our own software.
So what do you have to say to so many entrepreneurs and startups out there today? Is it something, do you actually set an end goal post in mind when you start off, or you just chart your own course as it goes?
I think, this topic, entrepreneurship and technology entrepreneurship, is widely covered, and so there are some great people who have spoken great things, and so for in particular there is Steve Jobs, who had this interview where he said everything around us is made by people and you can change it. And so technology entrepreneurship is just about making some new things. A lot of things which are available in the world today are not necessarily, is made by people, but a lot of the things which are not available is possible to do and is needed and it's helpful. There is a lot of problems which you can solve for people, for organizations, for societies, and so on and so forth. And so the way the modern society works, if you solve those problems, you can help a lot of people and you can also make money. So it's kind of good. You can do both.
With Acronis, over the last maybe about 2 years since you came back, you've been like a man on a mission. So are you happy with where you've got Acronis today, or what's your agenda for the next maybe 2-3 years?
I answered this question many times, and particularly quite often asked actually in Asia. And the best answer again was given by Lee Kuan Yew: if you're happy, there is not much progress. And so I'm not ever happy, and I hope I will not be happy up until I will want to not have progress. And so Acronis have changed a lot and have accomplished quite a bit over the past 2 years, but it's a very, very beginning of what needs to be done. And we are on a mission, and on a mission of making sure that data is never lost and is protected. Digital data is never lost and it's protected. And I think it's a very important mission, and we are very far from being done.
Do you think that data is going to be the new currency in the world? Is that something that people are going to go after, something?
No, I think the currency will stay the currency. Data will be the world. It will be more important than the currency. At the end of the day, the currency is just about exchanging. And it's just about, I have some value, I want to express it in something temporarily to change it to something else. The value will be what you have. The data will be what you have and what you need to exchange to something else, because everything in the world will be described in data, and so data is sort of going to be more important than currency. Currency will be data. So one thing which is obviously important is that all of the currencies will be digital, and that's just a matter of time before it's the case, but data is more than currency.
And how do you see cloud coming into the picture in all this data as a currency kind of thing?
Cloud is just a convenient way to access and utilize computer resources. And cloud, internet, and mobile devices made it possible for computing to be used everywhere, by everyone, and for everything. And that is made it possible, not yet already used. And so Now with cloud and with very fast connections and with very powerful mobile devices, there is a lot of opportunities for companies like Acronis to utilize this potential to solve some problems. So cloud is a great way of making it widely accessible to everyone at any time and for any purpose.
So could you say that it's probably democratization of the process?
No, I don't know. I mean, democratization is a very complicated word, and so I'm not sure whether it's the right way to describe it. It's just making it widely available. I think it's descriptive enough. It's, in some cases, before cloud, if you are somebody and you're in certain location and at certain time, there is a limited amount of computing which is available for you, and there is a limited amount of applications which is available for you, and so you have to deal with the limited amounts of computing and applications. Now, with cloud, everywhere, for everyone, at any time, you have any applications and any amount of computing. That's a change.
You've been a pure sciences guy with a lot of interest in physics. So where do you see the whole, I mean, do you think teleportation will come true in our lifetimes?
I don't know, definitely not in our lifetime, but there is a lot of interesting things which are happening today in physics and in sort of core technology. Actually, just during the day when we are having this lecture, I'm going for the lecture of some former head of R&D for HP about the future of computing, and he's going to talk about what happens when silicon runs out of its potential and people will have to use new forms of computing, such as quantum computing, for example, or such as other types of computing, optical computing, and so on and so forth. So definitely there will be a lot of change, but a lot of the changes which are possible and enabled by technology don't require such breakthroughs in science like telecomputing. Like teleportation. So there is a lot of just benign changes. A lot of our world is not well organized, and it's not very productive, it's not very convenient, and it's solvable by the means of technology which is sort of already available today, or evolution of what is available today.
Through your investment firms, the private equity funds that you have, you've been investing into companies. I mean, so what kind of scenario do you see there?
I think it's very important that I was founder of Parallels, and I ran it for 10 years, and then I founded the venture funds, Runa Capital, Fistech Ventures, and then I came back to Acronis, and for about 2 years I'm focused on Acronis. So I'm not investing in anything. The venture funds, where I have a position on investment board and where I am a partner and where I invest some of my proceeds from various businesses, they do, but I don't. So I am focused on Acronis, and in Acronis we just focused on protected data and data management. So that's one thing which is very important. But then, yeah, there are two funds, and so one of them is before $1 million and early stage, well, rather seed stage, pre-seed stage, and it invests in anything which there is a sustainable technology advantage, which includes biotech, includes electronics, includes IT, includes quantum technology, includes material science startups outside of quantum technology as well. And then there is a Runa Capital, which is focused on information technology, which is early stage, growth stage, and sometimes even late stage.
What do you make of? I mean, you've been a Singaporean now, and you've been here for many years now. So, I mean, what do you make up of the entire startup scene in Singapore?
Well, at the moment there is not that much of startup scene. It's relatively small, but I think startups in a place like Singapore are enabled by deep knowledge and deep technology and deep science. And if you look at Singapore universities, only in the last 10 years they have sort of entered the top notch universities of the world, and more so over the last 5 years. And that means maybe 5-10 years from now we will see the result. We will see sort of a critical mass of deeply knowledgeable people who will be able to do some things which will be requiring sort of a critical mass of deeply knowledgeable people versus a critical mass of inexpensive programmers. because Singapore is not going to be a place for inexpensive, high-tech people, but it might end up being a place for deeply knowledgeable people who want safe and comfortable conditions of life, who want connection to science, and so I think in 5 to 10 years that will be very interesting here in terms of startups. But at the moment, it's just beginning.
So in terms of, again, on startups, the idea, or is it more to do with execution or scalability, which really determines the success of a startup?
Unfortunately, in a human life, since the history of mankind coming into existence, there has never been a situation where something one was important. It's always multiple things. So the idea is of course important, but there is a lot of ideas, and execution is very important. The team is very important. All of these things are important, and it's really a balance between a proper idea which fits the team and fits the execution. But yeah, there is not one thing which is more important than another.
Thank you, Sergey.
All right. Yeah.